He stole the money. He tried to hit me. Kayla's voice cracked in panic as the front door swung open. Rain hissed against the porch light, and the soft thud of wet shoes echoed into the living room. Mr. and Mrs. Miller froze in disbelief, halfway out of their coats, their evening calm collapsing into chaos. Kayla stood near the couch, trembling, her mascara streaked. She clutched her phone like a weapon. I swear, I tried to calm him down. But he lost it. Her voice broke again, more dramatic this time, the way an actress presses for sympathy. On the other side of the room, 10-year-old Eli stood barefoot, hair disheveled, hands balled at his sides. The family's old golden retriever, Scout, pressed close to his leg, growling softly at the babysitter. Mrs. Miller's pearl necklace caught the lamp's glow as she took a step forward. Eli, what is she talking about? She asked, voice trembling between fear and disbelief. Mr. Miller's jaw tightened. Son, answer her. But Eli didn't speak. His eyes, calm and dark, stayed locked on Kayla. On his left wrist, the blue light of his smartwatch flickered faintly steady, alive. Kayla shifted her weight, feeling the dog's growl deepen. He's been lying all night. She snapped, panic giving way to irritation. He tried to grab my purse, maybe to steal the money you left for dinner. I'm not sure what's wrong with him, but he needs help. Scout barked once, loud enough to make everyone flinch. The purse, half-sipped, hung at her side. Scout, no. Mrs. Miller scolded automatically, but the dog didn't back down. Eli finally spoke, his voice soft but cutting through the tension. Mom, he said, eyes still on Kayla. If I press play now, you'll see everything. His thumb brushed against the smartwatch's edge. Mrs. Miller frowned, confused. Press play? What are you talking about? But before Eli could answer, Kayla jumped in, desperate. Don't listen to him. He's making up stories again. He's been acting strange all evening. I told him to go to bed, and he said he was recording me. That's when She stopped, realizing she was saying too much. The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, thunder murmured across the dark Illinois sky. Mr. Miller finally broke it. Eli, he said, slower this time. What's going on? The boy took a breath, his small shoulders trembling just once. She's lying, he said simply. And Scout knows it. Kayla laughed sharply, too loud. The dog? You're using the dog as your witness? She tried to step closer, but Scout blocked her path, low and firm. Mr. Miller looked between them, torn between anger and confusion. Kayla, you said he hit you? Yes, she said quickly. He was angry because I wouldn't let him use his tablet. He threw a toy at me. You can check the bruise. She pulled up her sleeve dramatically, showing a faint red mark that could have come from anything. Mrs. Miller's voice softened. Eli, did you? No. His answer was quiet but unwavering. He didn't look away, not even when his father sighed the sigh that always meant disappointment. Scout nudged Eli's hand as if urging him forward. The clock ticked toward 10. Rain pattered harder on the windows. Kayla crossed her arms, adopting an expression of exhaustion. Look, I'm not trying to get him in trouble. But I can't be around kids who scare me. Maybe he needs stricter rules. Maybe that school you mentioned. She stopped when she saw Mrs. Miller's eyes flash with shame. Boarding school, Eli whispered, finishing her sentence. You heard them say that, didn't you? You're trying to use it. His mother's mouth parted in shock. Eli, enough. But he didn't stop. You took their money, he said. You lied. You drank their wine. And you called someone to someone's. They both came here. His voice trembled only once, but every word was sharp. Kayla's face blanched. That's ridiculous. Do you have proof? Eli tilted his wrist slightly. The soft glow of the smartwatch danced across his face. Maybe. Kayla laughed again, forced and shaky. What is this? A spy movie? You're a kid. Nobody's going to believe. Scout barked again, interrupting her. Louder this time. Kayla flinched. Mr. Miller raised his voice. Enough. Everyone. Quiet. The house fell silent except for the ticking clock. The air felt heavier now, like the rain outside had seeped into the walls. Eli's voice came softly. If you believe truth always finds a way, listen. He touched the watch, but before he could activate it, Mrs. Miller grabbed his arm. Wait. We'll talk about this calmly. No more theatrics. Kayla nodded eagerly, playing the victim again. Yes, please. I just want to explain. No, Eli said. The single word stopped them. She doesn't want to explain. She wants to cover it up. For a moment. Nobody moved. Kayla's fingers tightened around her purse strap. The dog's growl returned, low and dangerous. Mr. Miller exhaled and rubbed his temple. Kayla, maybe you should wait outside. We need to speak with Eli alone. Her eyes flickered with panic. No, there's no reason for that. It's late, and, Scout barked again, this time pawing at the side of her bag. Mrs. Miller frowned. What's he doing? He smells something, Eli said. His voice sounded older than his years. Something that doesn't belong here. Kayla stepped back instinctively. The movement made the light catch her purse zipper, where something small and plastic glinted. Mr. Miller noticed. Kayla, he said quietly. What's in your bag? She hesitated. Just my things. Show me. I don't think that's. Now. The authority in his tone left no room. She froze. Eli didn't move, didn't breathe. In that frozen second, lightning flashed through the window, illuminating all their faces, the parents' confusion, Kayla's fear, the boys' quiet resolve. Then, slowly, she set the bag down. The dog growled once more, low and certain, as if he already knew. The tension snapped like a wire about to break. And in that moment, Eli whispered so softly, only Scout could hear him. It's almost over, boy. The golden retriever wagged its tail once, then went still again. Kayla straightened her back, forcing composure. This is insane, she muttered. I've been trying to help you, and you're treating me like a criminal. Her words fell flat in the heavy air. Outside, thunder rolled again, closer this time. Mr. Miller exchanged a look with his wife, a long, silent conversation of doubt, fear, and guilt. Then he turned toward Eli. Son, he said, his voice tired. If you have something to show us, now's the time. Eli met his gaze. You'll see everything soon, he said quietly. He glanced at the clock. 10:02 p.m. The rain slowed. The dog stopped growling. The house, for the first time that night, listened. 3 hours earlier, the rain had just started, a fine mist that turned the neighborhood sidewalks into silver ribbons under the streetlights. The Miller's house glowed warm and calm from inside, smelling faintly of cinnamon candles and the pot roast that Mrs. Miller had reheated before leaving. Kayla arrived right on time, wearing a smile as bright as her pink lipstick. You must be Kayla, Mrs. Miller said, handing her a folded coat. Thanks again for coming on such short notice. Of course, Kayla replied, her voice sugar, sweet. I love kids. Mr. Miller nodded, glancing toward his son, who was sitting cross-legged on the couch, eyes half on his tablet. Eli, this is Miss Kayla. She's going to be with you tonight. Remember what we talked about? Eli looked up, polite but cautious. Yes, sir. Mrs. Miller took out two $20 bills and placed them on the counter. Here's money for dinner, okay? No delivery guys after dark. Just call the pizza place and have them leave it on the porch. Kayla smiled wider. No problem at all. Mrs. Miller continued with her well-practiced parental rhythm. No friends over, no alcohol, no shoes on the carpet. And Eli's bedtime is at 9. Kayla nodded, all agreement and sunshine. Absolutely. You don't have to worry about a thing. Mr. Miller patted his son's shoulder. Be good, bud. You're on your third sitter this year, remember? Let's make this one work. Eli forced a smile, eyes drifting to the window where Scout's reflection hovered beside his own. I'll be fine, he said. When the doors shut behind them and the car's taillights disappeared into the drizzle, silence filled the house. Kayla exhaled dramatically. Finally, she muttered, slipping off her jacket and letting it drop on the armchair. She pulled out her phone, thumbs flying over the screen. Music spilled softly from the speaker's upbeat, careless pop. Do you always turn on music when people leave? Eli asked. Only when I need to stay sane, she said, half laughing. Then, as if remembering something, she kicked off her heels and slid her sneakers back on. You're not supposed to wear shoes inside, he said. Sweetheart, she replied without looking up. Rules are for people who get caught. Scout lifted his head, nose twitching, and gave a low, uncertain growl. Kayla frowned. What's wrong with your dog? He doesn't like strangers, Eli said. He's not a stranger person. He's a truth person. Kayla rolled her eyes. Yeah, okay, Sherlock. She wandered into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and grinned when she found a chilled bottle of white wine. Now this is my kind of babysitting. She poured herself half a glass, clinking the stem against the counter. You're not allowed to drink, Eli said quietly. Your mom's not allowed to micromanage my evening. Kayla shot back. You want pizza? He hesitated. You're not calling the porch guy? Relax. I've got a friend bringing something better. She scrolled through her phone again and texted. Bring food. And maybe something fun. Her phone buzzed seconds later. On my way, babe, the reply said. Scout barked once, sharp and loud. Shut that mutt up, Kayla snapped, covering her ears. Eli knelt beside the dog, whispering something that made Scout settle again. He looked up at her. Mom said no visitors. And I said I don't care, she replied, smiling with sudden sweetness that felt like poison. You don't get to boss me around. She took the cash from the counter and stuffed it into her purse. I'll pay him with this. That's for dinner. Eli protested. Exactly, she said. He's bringing dinner. The doorbell rang 20 minutes later. Kayla opened it, laughter spilling from her lips. A tall young man with messy hair and a paper bag leaned in to kiss her cheek. Smells nice in here, he said. You cooking for me? Sure. She laughed. If opening wine counts. She took the bag and whispered something in his ear. Eli could smell pepperoni and cologne as the man brushed past him. Scout growled again. The visitor frowned. That dog gonna bite? Not if you don't lie, Eli murmured. What did you say, kid? Kayla shot him a glare. Ignore him. She led the man Chad, apparently into the kitchen. Eli stayed near the living room, listening. Between the hum of the refrigerator and the rain outside, he heard faint clinking, the sound of a lighter, and Kayla's giggle. His stomach twisted. He picked up Scout's paw, whispering, I think Mom was right. She said people who smile too much hide things. Scout gave a quiet whine, as if agreeing. When Chad left an hour later, Kayla leaned against the door, her phone lighting up again. Another friend? Eli asked. You could say that. She answered, already typing. Derek's bringing dessert. She winked. Don't tell your parents. They'll find out, Eli said. They always do. She laughed. Oh, I'll be long gone by then. Her second guest arrived not long after, same car model, different man. Scout started barking before the door opened. Quiet. She hissed, shoving the dog gently aside. Derek came in, carrying a pizza box and wearing the same kind of grin Chad had. Missed you, he said, kissing her cheek. Eli turned away, pretending to read. You've got a kid here? Derek asked. Don't worry about him, she said, he's just background noise. Derek chuckled and set the pizza down. Want to hang out after? Can't, she said, sighing. My little watchdog here would tattle. She looked at Eli pointedly. Right? Eli didn't answer. Scout sat at his feet, tail stiff. Kayla smiled coldly. That's what I thought. Derek left soon after, and silence returned uneasy, charged. Kayla poured herself another drink and slumped onto the couch. The clock read 8:50. Eli's bedtime loomed. Go upstairs, she said flatly. Brush your teeth. Go to bed. Mom said 9. I said now. He didn't move. She stood up slowly, wine glass in hand. You've got two choices. Bed. Or I tell your parents you threatened me. That's a lie. Yeah, well. Lies are easier to believe than kids. The words hit him like cold water. He turned toward the stairs, Scout padding behind. In his room, the rain sounded heavier. He sat on the edge of his bed, looking at the faint blue ring on his smartwatch. With a tap, the recording icon blinked red. His reflection in the dark window looked older, harder. I don't need to fight her, he thought, I just need to wait. Downstairs, Kayla laughed again, softer this time, on a phone call. Don't worry, baby. I handled it. He's going to boarding school before the week's out. Her voice carried up the staircase. Cruel and certain. Eli closed his eyes. Scout laid his head on the boy's knee. Time passed slowly. The wineglass clinked once, the phone buzzed again, the rain kept falling. Every sound was recorded. Every lie preserved in that tiny device on his wrist. At 9:30, he whispered, Good boy. Stroking Scout's fur. You keep listening too. Downstairs, Kayla hummed along to her music, unaware that her own words had already sealed her fate. The house, wrapped in rain and secrets, waited in silence. By 10:15 the house had sunk into a strange rhythm of quiet and tension. The kind that hums right before something goes wrong. Kayla had traded her wineglass for her phone again, pacing between the kitchen and the window, whispering into the receiver. Yeah, I've got the cash. Meet me behind the strip mall. Same place as last time. No, it's fine, he's asleep. Her words were smooth but her eyes flicked constantly toward the stairs. Upstairs, Eli lay awake, one arm draped around Scout. The boy's eyes were open, fixed on the glow of the smartwatch on his wrist. He could hear her voice floating upward, distorted by the walls. Every word pressed into his memory. The rain outside had turned heavier, rattling the window panes. Scout lifted his head, ears twitching, and gave a low growl. Eli whispered, "I know, boy. She's not done yet." Downstairs, Kayla slipped on her jacket, grabbed her purse, and crept toward the front door. She hesitated, glancing up the staircase, then muttered, "He'll never know." The door clicked shut behind her. For a moment, the house was completely still except for the sound of the storm. Eli sat up. Scout jumped off the bed, tail stiff. The boy tiptoed to the landing and peered through the blinds. He saw Kayla's car headlights sweep across the wet driveway, then vanish. "She left," he whispered. Scout whined softly. "Come on," he said. "We're following her." He pulled on his sneakers, zipped his hoodie, and grabbed the small umbrella from the hall closet. The dog followed close, nails tapping softly against the hardwood floor. Outside, the air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt and pine. Eli's breath came out in visible puffs. He stayed low, keeping to the hedges as he watched her car down the block, idling at the stop sign. When it moved, he jogged after it, Scout trotting beside him, leash taut. The strip mall wasn't far, just past the elementary school playground. Streetlights cast cones of amber light over empty parking spaces. A single black sedan waited near the dumpsters, its engine humming. Eli crouched behind a trash bin, heart pounding. Kayla got out of her car, umbrella tilted low. The man in the sedan stepped out, hood pulled up, face hidden. "You got it?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, handing him the folded cash from her purse. He slipped a small plastic pouch into her palm. "Same as before," he muttered. "Don't screw around with it this time." Eli leaned forward, the rain soaking his hair. Scout pressed against his leg, silent but trembling. Kayla tucked the pouch into her purse and looked around nervously. "Nobody followed you? Do I look like an idiot?" the man said, getting back into his car. The headlights flared, then vanished down the street. Kayla stood there a moment, then muttered, "Perfect." She opened her car door and froze. Scout had barked, one sharp sound that echoed through the lot. "What the?" She spun around, eyes narrowing into the darkness. "Eli?" The boy ducked lower, clutching Scout's collar. Her footsteps splashed closer, slow and suspicious. He could see her shoes stop inches from the edge of the dumpster. The smell of her perfume mixed with the metallic rain. "You better not be spying on me," she hissed. "If you are, I swear." Her phone buzzed. She cursed, answered it, and turned away. "Yeah, I got it. Relax. I'll be home soon." The opportunity was enough. Eli whispered, "Now," and darted behind the next car, dragging Scout along. They ran until the strip mall lights were just distant halos behind them. When they reached the corner, Eli stopped to catch his breath. His heart hammered so loud he could hear it over the rain. "We have to get back before she does," he said. Scout barked once, softly, as if agreeing. 10 minutes later they slipped back through the side door, dripping and cold. Eli wiped Scout's paws with a towel, whispering, "Good boy." Upstairs, he stripped off his wet hoodie and hid the umbrella under the bed. Moments later, the crunch of tires sounded outside. Kayla was back. Eli sat at his desk, pretending to draw when she entered. Her hair clung to her face, eyes darting. "You still up?" "Couldn't sleep," he said evenly. She smiled, too sweet. "Then maybe you'll sleep better knowing I'm back." She hung her jacket on the chair, purse heavy at her side. Scout stared at it, nose twitching. "You went out," Eli said. "You left me here alone." "Oh, don't be dramatic. I went to grab us something to eat." "From behind the mall?" Her hand froze on the purse strap. "Excuse me?" "I saw you," he said quietly. "I saw what you bought." For a long second, the only sound was the rain. Then she laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "You're imagining things. You were asleep." "No," he said. "I wasn't." She stepped closer, her smile gone. "You tell anyone about this," she said, her voice suddenly low. "And your parents will believe me, not you. You've already got the troublemaker record, remember? All I have to say is you hit me." Scout growled again, deep and protective. Kayla pointed at the dog. "Keep that thing away from me." Eli didn't move. "He doesn't bite people who tell the truth." "Enough," she snapped, reaching into her purse for her phone. "You're done threatening me, kid." She pretended to dial, but the trembling in her fingers gave her away. "Hello, Mrs. Miller?" Yes, it's Kayla. He's acting up again. You're lying, Eli said, voice small but certain. They're not picking up. She blinked. He was right. The call hadn't gone through. For a moment her composure cracked. You think you're clever? She said finally. You have no idea what I can do. Neither do you, he murmured. His eyes dropped to the smartwatch. A faint red dot blinked, recording everything. Her gaze followed his. She realized too late what it meant. Give me that, she shouted, lunging toward him. Eli jumped back, Scout barking wildly. She grabbed for his wrist, but he twisted away, running down the hallway. You little. She chased him, the sound of her shoes thudding on the floorboards. You think you can outsmart me? He darted behind the kitchen island, heart pounding, breath ragged. Stop, he shouted. But she didn't stop. Her hand caught his sleeve, yanking him back. Give me the watch. No. The struggle lasted only seconds, but it felt endless. Then, with a final jerk, she tore the device from his wrist. The screen flickered, the recording light blinking once before fading. She stared at it, triumphant and shaking. Game over. Eli stumbled back, eyes wide. For the first time, real fear crept into his chest. She held up the watch like a trophy. Now you've got nothing. And when your parents get home, they'll believe me. She shoved the watch into her purse, the same one holding the plastic pouch, and grabbed her car keys. I'm done here, she muttered. You can explain to them why the house is a mess. She turned toward the door. Scout barked again, blocking her path. She snarled. Move. The dog didn't. You'll regret this, she hissed, stepping around him. Eli stood frozen, watching her go. The door slammed, leaving only the storm outside and the faint echo of her tires fading into the night. His wrist felt empty without the watch, but somewhere inside him, a spark of calm returned. She doesn't know, he whispered to Scout, kneeling beside him. The house listens to me. Scout wagged his tail slowly, as if understanding. Lightning flared, briefly lighting the boy's determined face. He looked toward the smart speaker on the counter, the silent witness waiting in the dark. Tomorrow, he said softly, everyone's going to hear the truth. The rain answered with a steady rhythm, and Scout pressed close to his side, guarding him until the storm passed. The night had settled deep over the neighborhood by the time Kayla's car headlights disappeared beyond the curve. Inside the house, the power flickered once, and the old grandfather clock chimed 11. Eli sat in the kitchen with Scout beside him, the boy's face pale in the glow of the smart speaker light. Every creak of the floorboards upstairs made him stiffen. Every gust of wind felt like the world holding its breath. He whispered, "She's coming back, boy. She has to. She left her lie behind." Scout's tail twitched once. The dog's eyes stayed fixed on the door as if he could already sense the danger approaching. 10 minutes passed. Rain softened to a drizzle. Then, headlights swept again across the curtains. Kayla was back. Eli felt it first, the way the house seemed to draw in its air. He grabbed Scout's collar and whispered, "Stay quiet." The front door opened with a sharp click. Wet shoes squeaked on the hardwood. Kayla's voice floated in, trembling but angry. "You think you can play me, kid?" she muttered to herself. "You think you're smarter than me?" Eli crouched behind the kitchen island, watching her reflection in the glass door. She looked different now, hair wild, eyes sharp, one hand clutching her purse like a weapon. She tossed her keys on the counter and started pacing. "You want to record me?" she said aloud. Louder now. "Fine, record this." She yanked open the purse, checked the small pouch, then zipped it shut again. "They're going to believe me, not you. You'll be the liar. The little brat who can't be trusted." Eli's breath hitched. He needed the recording back, but his mind worked faster than his fear. The smart speaker's light blinked, waiting. "Hey, Alexa," he whispered, voice trembling but clear. "New memo. Start recording." The device chimed softly. Kayla froze. "What was that?" she snapped. Eli ducked, heart pounding. Scout growled low in his throat. "I know you're there," she said, walking toward the sound. "Come out." He didn't move. "Last chance before I..." She spotted his shadow. "Gotcha." She lunged around the counter. Eli bolted, running toward the stairs. But she caught his arm halfway, spinning him around. "You little spy," she shouted. Scout barked furiously, darting between them. Kayla shoved the dog aside and gripped Eli's wrist, her fingers digging into his skin. "Give me that speaker command. You turned it on, didn't you? It's not yours to stop," he said through clenched teeth. She raised her hand as if to slap him, then stopped herself, breathing hard. You don't know who you're messing with. I know what you bought tonight, he said. The words made her eyes flicker. That's not what this is about, she said. You're just trying to ruin me. But you can't. They'll believe anything I tell them. Maybe not if they hear it, Eli said quietly. Kayla's gaze darted toward the speaker. No, she whispered, realizing. She released him and rushed to it, yelling. Alexa, delete everything. The machine's polite voice responded. I'm sorry. I can't do that right now. You stupid. She turned back toward Eli, furious. You think you've outsmarted me? Let's see how you do without your precious tech. She snatched his wrist again, trying to drag him toward the door. We're going for a little drive. You're going to tell me what that thing recorded, and then I'll make sure nobody ever hears it. Scout barked, snapping at her sleeve. Get off! She screamed, jerking her arm free. The movement sent the small plastic pouch tumbling from her purse onto the floor. Eli's eyes went wide. Kayla froze, realizing what she'd done. That's not what it looks like, she hissed, crouching to grab it. Eli kicked it away, the pouch sliding beneath the counter. It looks like the truth, he said. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Kayla lunged for him again. Eli dashed around the island, Scout between them. She caught the edge of the counter, pulling herself forward, but slipped on the wet floor mat. The wine glass from earlier shattered, spraying shards across the tile. She fell hard, catching herself on her elbow. For a second her face twisted with something like fear, then fury returned. Enough games! She screamed. She grabbed the nearest thing, a towel, the empty wine bottle, anything to steady herself, and stood again, breathing like an animal cornered. I'm calling your parents. Right now. I'm telling them you attacked me. They won't believe you, he said. They never believe kids. They will this time. She fumbled for her phone, dialing with shaky hands. Mr. Miller? Mrs. Miller? It's Kayla, he's gone crazy, Her voice cracked when the line rang unanswered. Pick up, she shouted. Pick up, damn it. No one did. Eli stood by the counter, the small glow of the smart speaker casting a pale light over his face. They're not answering because they trust you, he said. But I don't. Kayla's breathing slowed, something cold entered her eyes. You shouldn't have followed me tonight, she said softly. That was your mistake. And buying that bag was yours. She stared at him for a long moment, then laughed quietly, almost kindly. You're clever. I'll give you that. But clever doesn't win. Grown-ups do. She turned toward her purse again. Still open on the floor. Unaware that Scout had crept closer. The dog barked, startling her, and lunged forward, pulling the strap down completely. The small pouch spilled into view. White powder smeared across the tile where the rain had dripped from her shoes. Kayla froze. Oh no, she whispered. Eli stood perfectly still. You should leave now, he said. Before they come home. Her face twisted. And let you win? Not a chance. She bent to scoop the mess back into her purse when the sound of tires crunched on the driveway. The garage door whirred open. No. She breathed. No, not yet. The headlights flooded the living room. Scout barked once, sharp and loud. Eli took a step back, heart racing. Kayla grabbed his wrist one last time. You say one word about this, I swear. The front door opened. Eli? Mrs. Miller called. Kayla spun around, smile snapping back into place. Oh, thank God you're home. Something happened. Eli's voice cut through hers. Mom, don't listen. He's lying. Kayla cried, her hand tightening painfully around his arm. The dog growled again. He's been violent, look what he did. But Mr. Miller's eyes went straight to the floor, where the pouch still sat half hidden beneath the counter. His face hardened. What is that? Kayla opened her mouth, but no words came. Mrs. Miller stepped closer. Kayla, is that? Kayla stammered. It's nothing, I swear he planted it. Eli stood tall despite her grip. It fell from her bag, he said quietly. Scout saw it. The dog barked again as if confirming. Outside, thunder cracked, shaking the windows. For a moment no one spoke. Then, from the counter, the smart speaker's voice said calmly. Playback, starting now. Kayla's own words filled the room. Use the food money. Who cares? If you tell anyone, you're done. The silence that followed was unbearable. Kayla's hand slipped from Eli's wrist. The phone fell from her grasp. Mr. Miller exhaled, his voice heavy. Kayla, he said, you need to sit down. This isn't what it sounds like, she whispered. But even she didn't sound convinced. Eli reached down and stroked Scout's head. Good boy, he said softly. Kayla turned toward the door, eyes darting, body trembling with the instinct to flee. But Scout stepped in front of her, unmoving. The headlights from the Miller's car framed her in pale light, her lies unraveling around her. Rain started again, soft against the windows, and the only sound left in the house was her shallow breathing. You don't understand, she murmured, half to herself. I just needed a chance. You had one, Mrs. Miller said quietly. And you wasted it. Kayla's lips parted as if to protest, but the words never came. Eli's smartwatch blinked blue again on the counter, recording the last sounds of her collapse the moment the truth finally took its breath. The sound of Kayla's voice echoing from the speaker seemed to freeze the air. For a moment, nobody moved. The recording played again, her laughter bright and cruel. Use the food money. Who cares? If you tell anyone, you're done. Then silence. Outside, the rain gathered strength, tapping the windows like a drumbeat of judgment. Mr. Miller looked from the speaker to the small pouch on the floor, then to the pale young woman standing in front of him. His voice was steady but cold. Kayla, what did you bring into my home? Kayla's mouth opened, but no sound came. Her eyes darted to Eli, then back to Mrs. Miller, searching for sympathy. It's not mine, she finally whispered. He planted it. He's been trying to get me in trouble all night. Her words cracked like fragile glass. Mrs. Miller stepped closer, her expression torn between disbelief and anger. That's enough, Kayla. You've lied enough tonight. No, Kayla said quickly, shaking her head. You don't understand. Scout barked once, cutting her off. The dog's tail was rigid, his body between her and the boy. Call the police, Eli said softly. His voice was calm, almost too calm for a 10-year-old. Mrs. Miller hesitated, but Mr. Miller had already pulled out his phone. Kayla's eyes widened. You're making a mistake, she said. I can explain. Then explain, Mr. Miller replied, dialing. Explain why there's something illegal on my kitchen floor and your voice threatening my son. Kayla's shoulders slumped. It was just a favor for a friend, she said weakly. I didn't mean to. A favor? Mrs. Miller's voice trembled with disbelief. You used our money, endangered our child, and you call that a favor? Kayla's expression shifted, desperation flashing to anger. You don't get it. She hissed. People like you always think you're better. You think your perfect little lives can't be touched. Mr. Miller's tone hardened. Ma'am, sit down, the police will be here soon. Kayla took a step back, clutching her purse. I'm not waiting for them, she muttered. Eli watched as she edged toward the door. Scout growled again, blocking her path. Move, mutt, she shouted. But the dog stood firm, hackles raised. Kayla, don't, Mrs. Miller warned. This will only make it worse. It's already worse. She screamed, her voice breaking. The front door rattled under the wind. Headlights flashed again in the driveway. A different car this time. Red and blue lights flickered across the curtains. Kayla's face drained of color. No, she whispered. You called them? We did, Mr. Miller said quietly. For everyone's safety. The knock on the door was firm, practiced. Police. Kayla backed away, shaking her head. Please, don't let them take me. I didn't mean for this to happen. Mrs. Miller's eyes softened for a brief second. But then she looked at her son, at the bruises on his wrist. The fear he'd hidden so bravely, and her compassion hardened into resolve. You brought this on yourself. Two officers stepped inside, rain dripping from their jackets. Evening. The taller one said, scanning the room quickly. We got a call about a domestic disturbance and possible possession. Mr. Miller gestured toward the counter. The evidence is there, officer. The younger officer picked up the pouch with gloved hands, holding it to the light. Looks like more than a misunderstanding, he said. Kayla's voice rose again, pleading. Please, it's not mine. They're setting me up. Ma'am, the tall officer said, his tone calm but firm. We're going to have to ask you to step outside. You can't. Ma'am. The single word stopped her. She lowered her head, tears cutting through her makeup. As they led her toward the door, she turned to Eli. You think you've won, don't you? You think you're special because your little gadget saved you? Eli didn't answer. Scout stood beside him, tail still and steady. Truth doesn't need to win, he said quietly. It just needs to be heard. The door closed behind her with a heavy finality. The flashing lights washed over the living room walls until they disappeared down the street. The house fell silent again except for the sound of rain dripping from the eaves. Mrs. Miller sank onto the couch, face in her hands. "I can't believe this," she whispered. "Mr. Miller set his phone down, looking at Eli. "Son, why didn't you tell us sooner?" "You wouldn't have believed me," he said simply. His mother looked up, guilt washing over her features. "Maybe you're right." She reached out and pulled him into her arms. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to breathe. "I'm sorry," she whispered against his hair. "We should have trusted you." "It's okay," he said, his voice muffled. "You do now." Scout nuzzled his nose between them, tail thumping once. The clock chimed midnight. The house smelled faintly of rain and something new, clean air after a storm. Mr. Miller exhaled, long and tired, then turned to the speakers still glowing on the counter. "You recorded all of it?" "Most," Eli said. "The rest the house did." His father frowned. "The house?" Eli pointed to the small camera above the doorway, blinking red. "It syncs with the watch." Everything she said near it was stored. Mr. Miller nodded slowly, both impressed and uneasy. "Smart kid." "Just lucky," Eli said. "No," Mrs. Miller replied, brushing his hair back. "You were brave." They cleaned up the broken glass together. The floor was sticky with spilled wine, and the faint chemical smell from the pouch still lingered. Mrs. Miller opened the windows despite the drizzle, letting the cool air in. The family moved carefully, silently, as if afraid the house might break again. When they finished, Eli stood by the table where the smartwatch rested. Its small blue light blinked like a heartbeat. "Can I keep it?" he asked. His father smiled faintly. "I think you've earned it." They all laughed softly, exhausted but lighter somehow. Outside, the storm was moving east, leaving the sky pale and streaked with the first hints of dawn. Mr. Miller looked toward the window. "You know," he said, "when I was your age, I thought justice only happened in courtrooms." Eli met his gaze. "Sometimes it happens in kitchens," he said. The man nodded. "Sometimes it does." Mrs. Miller turned off the light above the sink. The house felt peaceful again, like it was finally exhaling after holding its breath too long. Scout curled up near the couch, one paw resting on Eli's shoe. The boy stroked the dog's head. "Good work tonight," he whispered. The dog sighed contentedly. The smartwatch beeped softly, signaling that the recording had saved. Eli smiled at the sound. "Evidence doesn't scream," he murmured, half to himself. "It just waits until someone listens." His mother heard him and reached for his hand. "You're right, sweetheart. And tonight, we finally listened." Outside, a police car's taillights disappeared into the thinning rain, and for the first time in hours, the Miller's house felt like a home again, warm, safe, and honest. The morning came slowly, bleeding soft light through the curtains. The rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the world washed clean and quiet. Eli sat at the kitchen table with a mug of cocoa between his small hands, the steam fogging the window as he stared out at the wet street. Scout snored gently at his feet, a loyal guardian finally at rest. The house felt different now, lighter, quieter, as if the truth itself had scrubbed the walls. Mrs. Miller moved around the kitchen in a robe, her face pale with exhaustion but calmer than the night before. She filled a plate with scrambled eggs and toast, setting it down in front of him. "You didn't sleep much," she said softly. Eli shrugged. "Didn't feel like it." She sat across from him, watching the steam rise between them. "I didn't either." For a while they said nothing. The only sounds were the creak of the house settling and the steady hum of the refrigerator. Finally, she spoke. "They called this morning. The police," she confessed. Eli looked up. "All of it?" "Most. Said she got involved with the wrong people. She thought she could make quick money, that no one would get hurt." Mrs. Miller's expression hardened. "But she hurt you. She scared you." Eli poked at his toast, voice small. "She was just mean." "She was more than that," his mother said. "She was dangerous." She reached across the table and took his hand. "And you were brave enough to stop her." Eli didn't answer. He stared at their joined hands, at the faint bruise on his wrist where Kayla had grabbed him. Mrs. Miller's voice softened again. "Your dad's talking to the police about the recordings. They said it might help in another investigation. You did more good than you realize." He gave a small nod, eyes drifting toward the smartwatch on the counter. It sat there quietly, screen dimmed but still alive. "It's weird," he said after a moment. Something so small can change everything. His mother followed his gaze. It's not the watch, she said gently. It's the person who used it for the right reasons. The door opened, and Mr. Miller stepped in, dressed but weary. He carried the morning newspaper under one arm and the faint smell of rain with him. "Morning, champ," he said, ruffling Eli's hair. "Morning, Dad." Mr. Miller sat down beside them, exhaling. "They'll press charges. She won't be coming around here again." "Good," Mrs. Miller murmured. "No more strangers. No more sitters," Eli added quietly. They both looked at him, then laughed softly, the sound small but real. "We'll figure something out," his father said. "Maybe Grandma can help out for a while." "I'd like that," Eli said. He reached down to scratch Scout's ear. "He'd like it too." The dog thumped his tail lazily against the floor. "You know, Mr. Miller continued, unfolding the paper. "The officer said he'd never seen a kid handle something like that so calmly. Said you were like a detective." "I wasn't calm," Eli admitted. "I was scared the whole time." "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," his father said. "It means you do the right thing anyway." The words sank into the quiet like a truth Eli already knew but needed to hear again. He nodded slowly. "I guess." The morning light shifted, turning golden as the clouds broke apart. Across the street, the neighbors' sprinklers came on, misting over lawns still wet from rain. The normalcy of it all felt almost unreal after the chaos of last night. Mrs. Miller stood to pour more coffee. "We're lucky," she said quietly. "It could have ended so much worse." Mr. Miller agreed. "You can replace things. You can't replace trust." He looked at his son. "I owe you an apology, Eli. We should have listened from the start." Eli's voice was small but steady. "You listen now." "We do," his father said. "From now on, we listen." Later, after breakfast, Eli went to the living room. The floor was clean, the wine stains gone, the air faintly scented with lemon from the cleaner. The only sign of what had happened was the faint scratch on the floor where Kayla's heel had caught during the struggle. He sat on the couch, turning the smartwatch over in his hands. The screen lit up briefly, showing the time and a single notification. Recording saved. 4 hours ago. He tapped it. Listened to the faint echo of Kayla's voice. Then his own small one standing up to her. For a moment, he wanted to delete it to erase every trace of her but he stopped. "Some things need to stay," he whispered. Scout's tail brushed his knee, and Eli smiled faintly. "You remember everything anyway, don't you, boy?" The dog yawned in reply. Outside, the sun had broken free from the clouds, spilling across the front lawn. Eli stood and opened the door. The air smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. The street shimmered with puddles, each one catching the morning light like glass. Behind him, Mrs. Miller called, "Don't go too far." "Just out front," he answered. He stepped onto the porch and looked around. The world felt safe again, ordinary in the best way. A mail truck rolled by, the driver waving. Eli waved back. He sat on the steps, Scout's head resting on his knee. A bluebird landed on the mailbox, shaking droplets from its wings. For the first time in days, Eli laughed. He took off the smartwatch, setting it beside him on the warm wood. "You did good," he said quietly. "You helped." The watch blinked once, reflecting the morning Sunday. Inside, his parents moved about the kitchen, their voices low but peaceful. The sounds of dishes clinking, coffee pouring, the faint hum of a radio, ordinary sounds that felt like music. Mr. Miller came to the doorway. "You okay out there, champ?" "Yeah," Eli said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "How loud the truth is when you finally let it speak." His father smiled, pride softening his features. "That's a lesson most grown-ups take a lifetime to learn." "Maybe I got lucky," Eli said. "Maybe Scout did." Mr. Miller laughed. "Maybe both of you." He started back inside but paused. "We're proud of you, son." The words landed with quiet weight. Eli nodded, unable to say anything. When the door closed, he looked at Scout. "You think she'll ever tell the truth again?" The dog gave a soft huff, as if doubtful. "Yeah," Eli said. "Me neither." He sat a little longer, watching the street dry in the sunlight. A breeze passed through the trees, carrying the scent of wet leaves and something cleaner, hope, maybe, or peace. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang the hour. Eli stood, picking up the smartwatch and fastening it back onto his wrist. "Come on," he said to Scout. "Let's go see if there's any mail." They walked together down the short path to the mailbox, each step light, easy. The world was still damp but shining. When he reached the end of the driveway, Eli looked back at the house, the home that had listened when no one else would. He smiled. Evidence doesn't scream, he whispered again, repeating the words that had stayed with him through the night. It just waits until someone listens. Scout barked once, sharp and cheerful, as if agreeing. The sound carried up the street, bright and alive under the new Sunday inside. The clock struck 9. The house, for the first time in a long while, felt completely still. No secrets. No lies. Only the quiet hum of peace that follows the storm. Eli slipped his hands into his pockets and started walking. The dog trotting at his side, the world unfolding clean and wide before them. And behind them, in the window, the reflection of a boy and his dog shimmered faintly, framed by light. The smallest voice in the biggest world, finally heard.